Good evening, hello, welcome to the TriathlonDan YouTube channel, welcome to another day of triathlon training, and welcome to an especially painful day. Firstly, I feel like I'm on Inception. And before we get cracking, if you like seeing me in pain, if you like this sort of content, please do drop the video a like down below. Apparently it helps out really a lot with the video. I don't really understand it, I just ride my bike, but people tell me it does, so if you could do it, that'd be much appreciated. So let's dive right in. FTP, what is it? Well, FTP stands for functional threshold power, or in other words, it's the power that you can hold on a bike for an hour, supposedly. There's a lot of ways you can test it, there's a lot of different ways people do it. People tend to use this figure as like the mark of how good a cyclist you are, wrongly or rightly. Let me know down below if you agree or disagree with that. But it tends to be that, the term that's battered around most frequently. Oh, I ride bikes, oh, what's your FTP? Like straight away. So, how do you calculate what is your FTP? Well, there are several ways. Firstly, you can do pretty much standard 5-minute and 20-minute test. So you do a 5-minute max effort, 10 minutes easy spinning, then a 20-minute max effort, and you take 95% of that 20-minute effort. Alternatively, you can do a ramp test, which is where the power increases. There's different versions, but vaguely speaking, increases between 15 and 20 watts per minute, every minute until you can't pedal anymore. And then the last minute of effort is multiplied by 0.75, and that is your estimated FTP. As well as that, there are ones that I've seen where you do like 2 8-minute intervals and take a certain percentage of it. There's also a 4DP test, which tests your sprint, which tests your 20-minute power, all different kinds of things. There's probably some that I've missed. But the ones I've done are the 5 and 20 minute and the ramp test. And to be honest, I've had mixed results with both. But as my coach James constantly reminds me, the further you stray away from a 1 hour power test, the less accurate it's going to be. So he advises me, and I know people might have different opinions, he advises me that a ramp test is less accurate than a 5 and 20 minute power test because you're straying further away from testing that exact capability that you're trying to measure in a 1 hour power test. So let's talk about some numbers and then what I'm going to do tonight. At the beginning of this year, pre-COVID, I was in a lab taking part in a study and I did a ramp test where you do the power increases every minute until you can't pedal anymore. That happened. It gave me an estimated threshold of around 390 watts. I then, a few weeks afterwards, did a 20-minute Zwift race, not a straight out test, but in 20 minutes I averaged 401 watts, which gave me an estimated threshold of around 380. As well as that, Training Peaks WK05, I don't understand it, my coach James uses it, gave me an estimated threshold of about 390 watts as well. So everything was looking like my threshold was around 390 watts. I know what you're thinking, get Brailsford on the phone, this guy needs to be on the world tour. It's not as easy as that. So we'll fast forward a couple of months when the world calmed down a little bit and some time trials started going ahead. I thought, you know what, I've been smashing this Zwift thing, these power numbers, I'll be mint at time trial, let's go and give that a go. So I went to a few time trials, it wasn't bad, wasn't taking the world by storm, but if I'm honest, I was a little bit disappointed with my performances, not just the times, but the power. I was way off those numbers. So to give you some contrast, I think the best 25-mile time trial I rode power-wise was about 320 watts, which is still a decent amount of power for about a 53-minute 25-mile time trial. However, that is a massive amount less than my theoretical, FTP. Granted, there will be some drop-off between road position and TT position, but that was massive. Like 60 watts difference was huge. I can't afford to lose 60 watts. So as the year progressed and that became more and more evident through talking to my coach, talking to established time trials and triathletes, it became apparent that I need to spend more time in TT position. I need to train in TT position, I need to race obviously in TT position, and more importantly, I need to test in TT position. So for the last 12 weeks or so, I have mainly been riding indoors when I'm doing my intervals in TT position. So I'm hoping that I'll have made some gains in there to try and bring that gap closer together between my theoretical threshold and what I've actually put out in TT position. I then, about 8 weeks ago, did a ramp test in TT position. That gave me an estimated threshold of 335 watts. I have since raised that threshold for training purposes and I feel okay, so I feel like I need to do another test, but it keeps playing on my mind. I keep doing these tests that give me an estimation of threshold. It's always an estimate. It's always I'm looking at this test, it gives me an estimate of this. I don't want to be relying on estimates anymore. My previous coach, specialised in 100-mile time trials, and he would do a 3-hour power test because 100 miles took him about 3.5 hours. So that would be his test because it's race specific. So I'm not going to go and do like a 5 or 6 hour power test for an Ironman just yet. But what I am going to do tonight is a 1 hour power test. So a whole hour, as hard as I can, to try and get the highest average power in TT position, because then I can actually say my 1 hour, my functional threshold power in the position I'm going to be racing in is this. There's no, it was calculated using this, or I think it's around that. I've done it. What will probably happen is it might be a bit lower than I think. It might not be, but I'm thinking it might be a bit lower than I think. But that makes the training that much more specific and correct intervals wise. I'm also going to dual record the power. So I train indoors on a kicker bike and I use Fivero Asioma pedals on the road. I've put the pedals on the bike. I'm going to be recording, I've lost everything, recording my kicker bike power to my laptop and then the pedals to my Wahoo Bolt. Just because if anything drops out, I've got a backup. So touch wood, it should be okay to still record the power. I do not want to do a 1 hour power test and lose the data. And secondly, I can really nail down the difference between the power meters, if there is any at all, so that I know when I'm going on the road, I know how to factor in any differences or not. So we'll look at that as well. So anyway, let's go. If I'm honest, I'm really, really nervous about this, both for the pain that I'm going to feel and for the number and having to share it and actually doing it, all those things. However, I'm just going to get it done. So cue the pain, some little montage of me gurning and sweating, and then let's have a look at the numbers afterwards and I'll talk you through it. Let's go. Okay, so here we go. You've got 3 angles of my face, you lucky so-and-sos. Let's see how this went. I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing. I'm going to flick through this very quickly, don't worry. So I've just gone through the start banner. Here we go, 1 hour of power. The first couple of minutes for me is just about not doing anything silly, just trying to settle into the pace, not worrying if the power's fluctuating higher and lower. I've not got it on erg mode, not got any power smoothing on or anything, just using the gears. So I'm just trying to find which is the right gear. I'm in the right gear, but just trying to find the right cadence, find the right power, and just settle into it. The first couple of minutes is very small. Here we go. We're now 10 minutes in, going through the 10-minute barrier. I'm well into it now. My heart rate, I did have my heart rate monitor on. It was linked up to my Wahoo, not the Zwift. So I was about 150 beats a minute here. It didn't really go above 155 the whole thing. So I was looking at it occasionally, but more than anything, just focus on holding on consistent power. If you look at the top left, so I'm now 20 minutes into the test. Top left, I actually broke it down on the session into 5-minute blocks, just for something to focus on, and it really, really helped. An hour is a big effort to just focus on that 1 hour, so I literally just broke it down 5 minutes by 5 minutes. The first 4 lots of 5 minutes at 3:30, the second lot of 4 at 3:35, and the third lot of 4 at 3:40. In reality, the power was pretty constant, I think. We'll look at this in a second, but it just gave me something to sort of pretend that I'm going to start at a power and then lift it. I don't think I did in the end, but I just held a consistent power, but it just gave me something else to focus on. And as silly as it sounds, I started using Zwift as an actual motivational tool to keep going. Like, I was imagining now, like, okay, I'm in a triathlon and I'm passing people on the bike. Like, that's really ridiculous, isn't it? But you've just got to focus on stuff to get you through. What we're on now, 10 minutes to go. Yeah, 10 minutes to go. So I'm thinking, right, no, it's not, it's a minute to go. Empty the tank. I literally didn't have anything left by then. It was so hard. It was like a hard constant effort. It didn't really get really hard until about 40 minutes in, and then it was just grim. And then you're that tired, you've not really got a big anaerobic sprint at the end, and that's the idea. I think a well-paced hour should be riding until exhaustion, and this is what that was. That banner couldn't have come soon enough. That was absolutely grim. And I have a minute just to myself now, just to talk to myself about how that went. But that was the hardest power test I've ever done, both mentally and physically. It'd be so easy to go off too hard and blow up and ruin the whole thing, but I think I paced it okay. But let's have a quick look at the actual power data now, shall we? Okay, so let's look at the all-important data. So I've got 2 files from tonight, one from my Fivero Asioma pedals with the heart rate data on as well, which went to my Wahoo Bolt, and then one from the kicker bike to my laptop. So we're going to have a look at what the actual data was on both, and then obviously see the differences as well. So this one, I believe, is from my pedals. Now, I didn't use any lap function on the Wahoo. I just set it running and then, well, that was it, and stopped at the end. So I'll have to look at my peak 1 hour power. So you can see here, the peak 60-minute power is 332 watts on the pedals. And if we look at my heart rate, my peak 60-minute was 152 beats a minute. So from that, I can say my threshold power is 332. My threshold heart rate is 152. Let's have a look at what the kicker bike picked up. I can see that immediately. It's picked up a little bit high, so it's saying 60-minute all-time power high. So second best this year, 60-minute power. And then, yeah, so exactly the same there. So 60 minutes, 339. So 7 watts difference between the two. Let me know what you think. I don't think that's bad at all. Like, that's well within like 1 or 2%, isn't it? And it's such a small amount of watts that wouldn't affect my pacing really at all in a race. And that's the most important thing for me, knowing that the power meter that you use in training measures the same or very close to the power meter you're going to use for racing and pacing, etc. So, yeah, there we go. So I've got 332 and 339. So what do I take? Obviously take 339. Now I'd use 339 for the indoors, and then obviously 332-ish for the outdoors. Might round it up to 350, who knows. So that is it. Hardest power test in the world completed. I'm going to claim that. Let me know down below though if you've ever done a 1 hour power test or if this has inspired you to do so. I'd be really, really interested to hear how it's gone, and pictures and videos and all of that would be really great. So hope you enjoy this sort of content. If you have, leave us a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and I'll see you tomorrow at 4 PM for hopefully an easier day, because that hurt. See you later.